The cameras rolled with the kind of warmth audiences expect from Kelly Clarkson's show, a blend of laughter and easy charm. Yet beneath the glow of stage lights there was a flicker of tension no one could quite place until Zendaya walked onto the set with a guarded smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. And though the applause thundered across the studio, Kelly's opening remarks carried an edge that hinted at something unspoken, a history or a misunderstanding that had yet to be revealed. And as the two women exchanged pleasantries, the undercurrent of strain was felt by everyone in the room, setting the stage for a confrontation that would soon leave the entire production team scrambling and the audience gasping in disbelief. Kelly leaned forward with that trademark mix of friendliness and curiosity, but her next question landed heavier than the audience expected as she pressed Zendaya about the pressures of fame and rumors that had been swirling online for weeks. And though Kelly's tone carried a smile, the words themselves cut sharp and Zendaya's expression shifted ever so slightly, her eyes narrowing in a way that betrayed both hurt and defiance, while the studio audience fell into a hush, sensing that something uncomfortable was beginning to take shape. And Kelly pressed on, perhaps hoping to strike a chord of honesty, yet instead striking a nerve that would ignite one of the most unforgettable moments the show had ever seen. Zendaya straightened in her chair, the weight of the moment pressing down on her as the cameras zoomed closer to capture every flicker of emotion, and with a measured voice she reminded Kelly that speculation and gossip had consequences, that words carried power, and that constant prodding into private battles was neither entertainment nor fair conversation. But Kelly countered with a firm insistence that her role as a host was to ask what the public wanted to know, and in that instant two worlds collided: the performer who longed to shield her truth and the host who believed her job demanded boldness. And the audience sat frozen, unsure whether to clap or gasp as the tension thickened like a storm cloud about to break. The silence that followed was louder than any applause could have been, and though Kelly tried to smooth over the friction with a quick laugh, the damage was already done. For Zendaya leaned back, crossing her arms in quiet defiance, her poise unmistakable yet her patience wearing thin, and the cameras kept rolling, capturing a portrait of two women locked in an unspoken duel, each unwilling to step down from her stance. And when Kelly pressed once more, her voice just a touch sharper than before, Zendaya's lips parted with a retort that carried the weight of years of scrutiny, frustration and exhaustion, sending the audience into nervous whispers as they realized this was no staged drama but a raw, unfiltered moment unraveling live before their eyes. Zendaya's words struck with precision, and her tone, though calm, was edged with steel as she reminded Kelly that beneath the glitter of Hollywood there were human beings battling expectations, doubts and relentless headlines. And while the audience broke into scattered applause, Kelly's smile faltered for just a breath before she regrouped, leaning forward with a determination that signaled she would not let the moment slip away. And the exchange became less an interview and more a standoff of wills, two women both celebrated for their authenticity, yet now colliding in a space where candor and confrontation blurred, and the tension in the studio swelled until it felt as though even the lights above might shatter under the weight of it all. Kelly's voice grew firmer as she attempted to reclaim control of the moment, reminding Zendaya that millions watched the show for openness and honesty. But the actress shook her head, her curls catching the light as she leaned closer and told Kelly that honesty did not mean surrendering every piece of her soul for public consumption. And the words hung in the air like a challenge, like a boundary finally drawn, and the audience gasped at the candor while the producers behind the cameras exchanged urgent looks, unsure whether to cut to commercial or let the drama ride. And Kelly, sensing the audience's shifting energy, pressed again, but Zendaya's jaw tightened, her patience unraveling thread by thread as the tension crossed from uncomfortable to combustible. The audience sat rigid, their eyes darting between Kelly and Zendaya as though watching a match teetering on the brink of collapse. And though Kelly attempted to soften her tone by praising Zendaya's career and accomplishments, her next question carried an unmistakable undertone, probing into the actress's rumored personal struggles. And that was the instant the shift became irreversible, for Zendaya's face hardened, her voice lowering as she warned Kelly that there were lines that should never be crossed, not for a laugh, not for ratings, not for curiosity disguised as kindness. And the warning carried a gravity that silenced even the faint whispers in the crowd, while Kelly blinked, taken aback yet unwilling to yield, her insistence clashing headlong with Zendaya's resolve, and the air itself seemed to thrum with the inevitability of an eruption. Zendaya shifted forward, her hands clasped tightly as though restraining the storm gathering within her, and when Kelly pressed once more, trying to pivot but still tethered to the same sensitive thread, Zendaya exhaled sharply, the sound caught by every microphone in the studio, and with steady deliberate words she declared that she would not be reduced to headlines nor picked apart for the sake of spectacle. And as the audience gasped, Kelly attempted a nervous laugh, but the damage had been sealed, the atmosphere thickened unyielding, and Zendaya rose from her chair, the scrape of it echoing louder than any applause as she removed her microphone with calm precision, her eyes never leaving Kelly's, and the tension burst into open shock as the crowd realized the interview had just imploded before them. The studio seemed to freeze as Zendaya stood fully, her posture tall, her face composed yet blazing with resolve, and the sound of the audience's disbelief swelled into murmurs that rippled across the rows like a wave, and Kelly, half rising from her chair, called after her, voice straining to stitch the moment back together, but Zendaya had already turned her back to the stage, lights moving with deliberate steps toward the wings, her heels striking the floor with a rhythm that echoed through the hushed set, and when the exit curtain fluttered behind her, it was as though the entire room exhaled in unison, a collective release of tension that left Kelly motionless, gripping the edge of her chair as cameras caught every stunned expression in the audience and the broadcast team scrambled desperately for a solution. For a heartbeat, Kelly remained frozen, her smile gone, her voice caught in her throat as the reality of what had just happened settled heavy over the studio, and the audience, unsure whether to applaud or stay silent, shifted uncomfortably in their seats while whispers darted from row to row like sparks searching for kindling, and the crew behind the cameras waved frantically, debating whether to cut to a commercial or let the chaos play out live. And finally Kelly forced a shaky laugh, trying to salvage the moment, but it landed hollow and strained, for the absence of Zendaya was a wound that the show could not disguise, and though the applause sign flashed overhead, only a handful clapped, the rest staring wide-eyed at the empty chair where just moments ago one of Hollywood's brightest stars had sat. The production team finally made the call to cut to an unscheduled break, the screen flashing to a promotional reel, while inside the studio the audience buzzed with disbelief, some clutching their phones eager to spread the story, while others simply stared at the stage as Kelly sat motionless, her hands gripping the armrests of her chair as if to anchor herself against the storm she had just helped unleash. And when the cameras stopped rolling, she leaned forward, burying her face briefly in her hands before straightening once more, forcing composure, though the tension in her eyes betrayed the truth that this moment would follow her beyond the stage and into headlines that no producer could spin away with ease. When the cameras returned, the atmosphere was unmistakably altered, the energy that had once been lighthearted and welcoming now weighed heavy and uncertain, and Kelly sat alone in her chair, her smile a mask too thin to conceal the strain beneath as she addressed the audience with a shaky acknowledgement of the unexpected turn of events, her voice carrying the tone of someone trying to mend a fracture that had already splintered beyond repair. And though the crowd responded with polite applause, their faces betrayed their bewilderment, for the absence of Zendaya loomed larger than any words Kelly could offer, and the entire set felt caught between professionalism and chaos as the show staggered forward in the shadow of a walkout that would soon dominate every headline. By the following morning, clips of Zendaya's sudden departure flooded every corner of social media, fans dissecting each second of the exchange while hashtags surged across platforms, turning the confrontation into a digital wildfire that neither Zendaya nor Kelly could easily escape, and entertainment outlets scrambled to replay the footage, accompanied by heated debates from commentators, some siding with Kelly for pressing boldly, others praising Zendaya for drawing a line between privacy and spectacle. And through it all, the tension of the studio moment rippled outward, reshaping public perception of both women as audiences wondered whether the clash had been an unfortunate misstep or the inevitable explosion of two powerful personalities colliding under the harsh glare of live television.